my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before I get too excited or you hear any traffic sounds, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after all this awesomeness, you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already hadn't. That'd mean a lot. Or if you have any questions or gripes or just want to chat, you can always hit me up at Twitter at LikeIkes or passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. So, reason you might hear traffic sounds is because I'm in a hurry and I left my window open because it's actually getting cooler here in LA, and it's nice to kind of air out the room and keep it nice and chill when I get back. I'm a cold air kind of guy, I guess. Speaking of cold air, I just got back inside from outside in the cold air, doing my daily jaunt around the block thrice, which has been, I don't know, it's interesting doing something that is not that like physically taxing, but is very rewarding. I don't know, it's this weird psychological backflip I'm currently doing, and very much enjoying doing my little bit of exercise, but every day, and being on top of it. It's a very good feeling. Don't know if anybody else isn't living up to the Navy SEAL method of, the grind set or whatever. But really enjoying my, I'm trying to think of a less harsh word grind to pair with that. It's that early in the morning. The reason this is being recorded is because my editor is taking a very earned and I believe long-awaited vacation. So he's going to be out of town for a while and needed this early, which, enjoy yourself, Richie boy. We will miss and not notice you're gone. Just kidding. I'll notice you're gone next week when we can't play games. Let me see it. Oh, real quick. Alright, sorry, I figured out the... Alright, you can't hear all this noise. So I figured out where I could find the coffee information that I was alluding to last week. The coffee that I love so much that I am taking a break from to not overburden myself with, for those of you that remember last week's lovely intro, is Steady State Brewing Magdalena. This is out of San Diego, California, and it is truly delightful. Could not recommend it enough. So yeah, Steady State. I guess it's not. Is it brewing? Roasting? Roasters? I think it's Steady State Roasters. Steady State in San Diego, California. The version, or the flavor that I like, I guess, I don't know, say things at this hour apparently, is Magdalena. Magdalena. It's quite lovely. Other than that, not too much is going on. I think. Nope, nothing. Brain is empty. So this week had a friend of a friend on. This week's guest is GAMBIT Melendez, recommended to us by the fantastic Tom Belland. Both artistes and comic artists, as well as much more. So, without further ado and other feet dragging, enjoy the episode. Alright, folks, today with me, I've got a man who quit his customer service rep job just to stab people with ink pens, finished a 90-page comic book soup to nuts in less than 6 months by himself, and recorded the most awesome demo no one's ears will ever witness in his living room. It's GAMBIT Melendez!
Woo! I've always wanted an introduction like that. Thank you so much.
There you go. It's yours forever, my friend. Well, while we're kind of in the vibe, if you were to ever take part in a WWF-styled event, what would you want your walkout song to be?
Oh, man, that would be Finally by Anthrax from the album State of Euphoria.
Oh, hell yeah.
I've been practicing that entrance to the ring since I was like 14 years old, and I heard that song for the first time. So you asking me that's why I reply so fast, because that's something that I've had in my head my whole life. I think I waited my whole life to get someone ask me this question.
Woo! We did it.
Yeah.
All right. Do you okay, so if you've been practicing that long, do you know what your stage name would be?
That I don't have. I've never seen myself calling myself by a different name that's not Gambit or Elias, you know?
I mean, not much goes better than Gambit, honestly.
Right? It's perfect. That has been my nickname since 1991. 92, sorry. Since 92. Wow.
Was that from the X-Men comic, or was that from a different place?
No, it was from the cartoon. Actually, I fell in love with
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, I fell in love with the character, and that's how I decided to look into X-Men comics, and the rest is history. I started ordering everything where the character was, and the owner of the store once said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I got some Gambit comics for Gambit." And that's it. And it stuck, and it has been my nickname since back then. Wow. It's been a long time.
I mean, I know that you're talking about the '90s cartoon with like that banger intro, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course,
Oh, yeah.
best intro in any animated show ever.
Yeah, it's not close. Go out there and watch
That's
it, folks. It will get you. It'll give you chills even if you weren't watching cartoons on the floor in the '90s. Well, speaking of, what's your favorite book, comic book, cartoon that would either, in your opinion, make the best or worst choice for a big screen adaptation?
Oh my God, that's a difficult one, because I think almost all of them have been already adapted to a film by now, which is wow, The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, or The Killing Joke. Those are like, I wouldn't say my absolute favorite books, but those are the ones that come to my head every time someone asks me these questions. So I think that, yeah, I guess those are my top three. But a book that I would love to see adapted, and I think it would be, if done well, it would be beautiful. It's Superman for All Seasons.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one. I'll have to go check that one
Yeah,
out.
it's by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, same people that did The Long Halloween.
Ooh, that's a good one. All
But
right,
it's
next
it's
on my
so
to read
bright.
list.
It's so bright, and it's so light compared to what he did in The Long Halloween, which almost the whole book it's black and gray, you know,
Yeah.
and some pops of color here and there for the villains and whatnot. But for Superman for Seasons, it's really bright. It's like they took that darkness filter away, you know, and it's all blues and reds and very, very bright and colorful, and it's really
Yeah.
beautiful. And it's a really beautiful
It's almost like
book.
a watercolor.
Yes, and it's a very beautiful book too, you know, like the story, it's like top notch. So that it's a book that I think that if done properly, it would be an amazing piece of film.
Love it. Well, while we're talking about the Boy Scout himself, what's your favorite G-rated curse word that you could utter in front of any audience, child, grandmother alike?
Oh wow, I don't have a favorite G word curse word. I just don't do it when I have children. You know, when I know there's kids present, I change my whole way of speaking just so that I don't accidentally say something that, you know, it's not ad for kids. So
Respect.
I just try to I mean, I'm a father, so for the longest time I had to relearn how to speak in front of him so that he didn't start, you know, start talking like a pirate when he was like 3 years old, you know. It's funny, and you know, it's funny. I was like, hell yeah, but no, yeah. There's a part of me that was like, no, we have to do this right.
So when your kid was a little tyke and you're walking around, you stepped on like a Lego, let's say. What was there any word that came out of your mouth, or was it just a noise at that point? Then
It's usually a grunt or, you know, a scream like you know. But I just it's really funny because there were moments that happened, you know, and and it's always funny because it's a really weird noise, and at first you get a little bit upset because you hit your toe or you step on a leg and it's infuriating, but then you just laugh because you just made the weirdest noise that you could ever make, just so that you didn't curse in front of your kid, you know?
Well, speaking of children, what's the silliest thing you believed as a child that you look back on now and just giggle?
Oh my god. What's this called? Quicksand. Quicksand.
Oh yeah.
Quicksand and the Bermuda Triangle. Those were. Oh wow! I heard so many stories.
We were always worried quicksand was around the corner. Us '90s kids, I tell you, it was gonna get us. It was in every TV show. They were warning us. It was coming. We had to be ready. We needed rope and needed a friend.
Rope and a friend because we were going to die. You know.
Yes.
So yeah, I would. It's like. In places that you know that it's like it's an irrational fear, you know. It's like being afraid of sharks in a pool, you know. It's
dude, that was me. That was me in junior high. Holy crap! The amount of times I jumped in the pool and was afraid, but I had to look. I would look down. I would look behind me, like suddenly they came in the pool behind me.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was me.
Somehow, suddenly, there's a shark in that pool. To be fair, here in Florida, you have a chance of finding an alligator inside your pool. You know, so that would be a legit fear here. Like, you know, it's like, there's an alligator in my pool. I am not using my pool. So that one I would be more like, yeah, that could happen.
Yeah, that was legit. Yeah. Well, since you're in Florida, have you actually been down to, you're within spitting distance, have you been down to the Bermuda Triangle or?
Well, I'm from Puerto Rico, so one of the corners of the Bermuda Triangle is the island. So for us, it's like it's right there. It's right in front of us. I step.
Oh, so that's super silly.
Yeah. I go to the beach and that's it. I'm in the Bermuda Triangle beach. You know, so stupid.
Oh, I love that childhood silliness knows no bounds.
Yeah.
Well, while we're kind of in the zone. The triangle, the area, if you will, what myth is your favorite or you find yourself most commonly dispelling?
Oh, dispelling? I don't know, man. I don't. I have to think about that. I don't know if I have an answer for that though.
All right, we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Let's come back to that one.
Something antithetical, perhaps. What's the proudest accomplishment that you've made that the fewest people know of?
Is recording a demo in my living room.
Hell yeah.
That's yeah, I'm very proud of that. I did all the parts. I didn't play the drums. Let me clarify that I didn't play the drums, but I did program the drums on the software, and the recording software, and I play the guitars, the bass, and I learned. I'm not a very good guitar player. I'm an okay guitar player. So I've been practicing and I've been, learning a few tricks here and there, and I put all of my energy into this 5-song demo that only my closest friends have heard.
Oh, so jealous. So you pulled off your best Billy Corgan impersonation.
So it's instrumental. It doesn't have any lyrics because I'm just not at that level, Yeah. I've used to collaborate with another musician for the lyrics when we had a band, had someone else do the lyrics and I would just do music with the rest of the band. But this is the first time that I do the whole thing by myself. And it was a really cool experience. Yeah, it was a really cool experience. Really happy.
What's your biggest everyday temptation?
Biggest everyday temptation right now would be playing Baldur's Gate 3. That is the most distracting thing right now. It's really difficult to go to bed at night. It's really difficult to go to work in the morning. And that's me playing alone. If I connect with my friends, we can spend hours. Hours doing nothing in the game.
D&D, but nobody has to be the DM. Sign me up. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh my god! And it's the same group that we play D&D every Friday night. So it's the same D&D group that I'm playing Baldur's Gate. It's like we can't get enough of it.
Given the opportunity, what's your favorite story to tell?
My favorite story to tell. Mm.
It can be yours, it can be somebody else's. Just one that just like if there's a lull in the conversation, if there's somebody new at a party that you really want to impress, it's time to drop this banger.
I think how I published my first comic book. How that would
Please.
be a story to that would be like that's like my go-to when I want to not impress, but when I want to talk to someone and I want them to know who I am and what I do. I like to talk about myself, so that's it's no it's not that difficult to say. Oh, I have a story to tell you, and it'll be about myself, you know. But I'm really
Well,
proud.
what's the story? Yeah.
So we had this script. My friend had this script done for about 7 years at that point, and I never felt ready to draw a comic book. I've always been an artist. I was already a tattoo artist by then, but my dream was always to be a comic book artist. It's just that being a comic book artist in Puerto Rico wasn't that that common. It was very rare and very rare to make it happen. So that's why I started tattooing instead of doing comic books. But the world has changed since then, and comic books are easier and accessible, and it's easier for one person to produce, whether it's through the website or physical. So we did a web comic once. We had 24 pages. It was a zombie comic. It was very similar to The Walking Dead. And what angers me about that, I know, it's a segue real quick, but what angers me about that is that our zombie story was going to have aliens, and then years later, I learned that Kirkman lied to Valentino and told him that there was going to be aliens in his story in order to get published by Image. Like, oh my god! Anyway, so we did that, and then when we realized that it was very similar to The Walking Dead, I lost interest. That was me. I lost interest. And then he had this script, and me not feeling ready, one day I said, if I don't do it now, I won't ever do it. And I had just met my wife at the time, and she pushed me to do it. She was like, hey, this is what you're going to do. You have a bunch of things happening at the same time. You need to start cutting down and prioritizing if you want to get this done. And that's what I did. And I did between January and May that year. I draw, ink, letter, put together, and sent to print 90 pages into different volumes. And I sold them out, the both volumes. And a year later, I released a collected edition and sold out again. So I'm very happy.
What's the title of this work?
It's
if
called
people at home want to read it.
It's called Unos 30 Tiros. It's in Spanish. It was published in Puerto Rico, and it translates to some 30 shots. It's a dude that has a vendetta against some politicians and some corrupt cops that did him wrong at some point in his life, and he takes it back. And it was it's based on a fictitious version of Puerto Rico, so there's a lot of things that are relatable to our community, and it sold really well, and I'm really happy with it. I've thought about redrawing it because now I see it and I'm like, oh my god, I learned so much during that whole experience. I learned so much in what not to do when doing a comic book. Wow.
I mean, that's the best part is like the first one is you learn so like everything is a learning experience, especially the first one, right? Because that's your like first step into this, into the unknown.
Yeah. And I've been reading comic books since I was in 4th, 5th grade, and I have consumed so much of the media. You think you know it, you think you know it, all of it, and as much as you think you know all of it, once you start working to produce one, you go like, oh wow. I know this was a lot of work, but oh wow, it was at some point it was overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. I was trying to crank up to put out a page a day, and I was tattooing all day, and then I would go home and I will eat something, and I would sit in front of in that drawing table, and I would draw until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning until I got that page at least ready to be ink.
Damn.
So it was a lot of work, but I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
And really happy
yeah.
with it. And every once in a while, I grab a copy. I grab my copy and I go through it and I look at it, and it was, like I said, it was a very humbling and learning experience.
Awesome. Well, this might feed into that. What decision in your life are you the most proud of making?
The decision I'm most proud of making was quitting that customer service job and deciding to go ahead and try to do art, because it was the only thing that was not making me sick at the time. To this day.
Yeah. So we were talking about this before the cameras got rolling, so to speak. But you were working customer service. You got down. You quit with only $400 to your name.
Yep.
What year was this?
2006, I believe.
That's still not that much money. And
Yeah.
then you went.
Yeah.
And...
That's not nothing. That wasn't even my rent for that month. That was not even my mortgage.
You take that $400. You went down. What equipment do you remember buying?
It was some knockoff equipment that a local tattoo studio was selling. Yeah, it was very cheap. It was very cheap and very limited. I had no one to teach me how to tattoo either, and back then there was no YouTube that I could go and get the information that I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, so it was completely blind. I had gotten tattooed like 2 weeks before, and
You had never yourself tattooed anyone though?
at that point, no, never.
Holy
And
fucking shit.
I've had only 2 tattoos, and during that second tattoo, I was talking to the artist. I was like, "So how do you do this?" So I do it like this, and and he goes, "And how you do that?" I do it like that, and I said, "Oh," and he was like, "I know you want to learn. If you want, I can tell you where I bought my equipment." I said, "Sure," and he told me, and 2 weeks later, I went and I bought it, and a friend from work said, "Oh, you bought the equipment. I'll be there on Saturday morning at 10 a.m." I said, "Wait, give me a second. I didn't even know how to set it up." And he was like, "Don't worry." Yeah, it was wild. And he goes like, "Don't worry. I've gotten enough tattoos that I know what you need to do." I said, "Oh, fine. Okay. Sure. How is this gonna go? This cannot go wrong at all." So he was there Saturday morning.
So
Yeah, it's super early. On the dot, 10 a.m. He was in front of my house. I was like, "Let's do
Hell
this."
yeah.
And he told me, "You connect this cable here, you connect this cable here, and this is how you put in the machine together. And I think you have too much needle." And he was, you have too much needle out. It's a little bit less than that. And when I hit the foot switch, he goes like, "No, that's too much voltage. Lower it down." And I lowered the voltage, and he was like, "Yeah, that
Wow.
sounds." And he was like, "Yeah, that sounds like it." I say, "Wow," and and I put the stencil on, and I put that first line, and I wanted to quit.
The rest is history, baby.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It was really it was a horrible line, that first line, and I wanted to quit and I wanted to cry. But he made me finish the drawing. He made, I mean, the tattoo. He's like, "No, you're gonna finish it."
Mm-hmm.
And it took me like 8 hours, and
Jeez.
to do something that now it will take me 45 minutes. And the next week, my brother show up. "Hey, so you're tattooing? I want you to do this tattoo on me." And that second tattoo was, I learned so much in that first experience that second tattoo was so nice. To this day, it's 16 years now, and that tattoo still looks beautiful. You know, considering it's my second tattoo, and it's just a tribal panther.
That's so cool.
But that was the one that I said, "Okay, I can do this." And now, and the rest is history. I've been doing it for 16 years now, and it has given me the opportunity to publish my own comic books and my own books, and to meet a bunch of the artists that I love, that have inspired me. I gonna name drop right now. George Perez was the ring,
Whoa.
the one that carried the rings on my wedding that year and at Dragon Con. And
Damn, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So
Okay, so you hear that, kids? All you need is $400, and you quit
four
your job
hundred
and become
dollars.
a tattoo artist.
It's not that
That's all
easy
you
though.
need.
It's not that easy though.
So, as someone who quit their job with only $400 and started a brand new career that they've never done, perhaps you have a favorite meal that you like to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors. One might even call it a poor man luxury that would be pretty easy for the folks out there to make.
A favorite meal that I like to make, and any pasta that I can get my hands on because it's super easy. Just boil some water, heat some meat, and put it together. But now
Somebody's got experience.
Yeah, I mean, actually it's a recent experience. I hate cooking. I don't like being in the kitchen. But lately I've been doing it for the past 3 months. Yeah, I was gonna say 6 months. Wow. For the past 3 months, I've been cooking every day. I got one of these food delivery services, and I've been cooking every day. And I still don't enjoy
Awesome.
cooking, but but it has made it easier.
Yeah. What's your favorite drive time like jam or like car karaoke? What when it comes on the radio do you pump up and just sing till your lungs give out?
So when I'm driving, I have this playlist already set up for driving, and in whatever comes up, I just sing it with the best of my knowledge of the lyrics. There's a lot of things that they're just misheard lyrics, but I'm in the car, nobody's going to listen to me. But if it's Iron Maiden, if it's Ghost, if it's Motorhead, I will scream until I have no voice. I used to have a Motorhead tribute when I was in Puerto Rico. I used to play bass and sing in the band.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, on the kind of inverse of that, what's your favorite non-musical sound?
My favorite non-musical sound. Oh wow, I don't remember these questions. this one specifically.
I can't give them all away.
That's good. That's great because I was not ready for this one. My favorite non-musical sound. I don't think I have a favorite non-musical sound. Let's get back to that one.
All right, let's skip it. We're coming back around to that one.
Keep
What's
saying
your
that.
last or
Sorry.
What's your last or most memorable dream you've had?
The last, oh, I can't say that last dream I had that I remember vividly. It was really rough, and it's not PG-13, not even NC-17. That's straight up disturbing. No.
Fair enough.
But before,
Thank you for not subjecting us.
yeah, no, oh no. Listen, I had forgotten that you mentioned it, and now I have this memory again in my head. It's like,
Oh, sorry.
it's like, hello, darkness, my old friend. But I think the dreams that I've enjoyed the most are the ones where I'm flying.
Yeah.
I know it's not the same question, but that I would say that
No. I love it. It's a great answer.
Is the one where I'm flying.
Have
and
you
I
ever
used to dream that a lot.
have you ever gone flying or like skydiving or anything like that?
I have not. I've always wanted to go skydiving, and I have a client that every time he comes get a tattoo, he's like, dude, because he works at he works for a skydiving company a few blocks from here. It's like, come on, let's do it. Let's jump from a plane. You're gonna love it. And I know I'm going to love it. I know, and I want to do it, but I just keep putting it off for some reason. But it's on my bucket list. Definitely on my bucket list.
Maybe it's because you have common sense and a wife.
That is true.
What's the best or most memorable piece of advice you've ever received?
So this was from Scott Snyder. It was at the Puerto Rico Comic Con in 2013, I believe. I was hosting his panel for the convention, and he was saying I'm going to uh rephrase this because I can't remember the exact words, but it was that
Yeah.
it was the yeah, there are times that you're not feeling okay and you're just waiting for the muse to come, but your customer doesn't care that you're not inspired. Your customer doesn't care that you're feeling depressed. Your customer wants their product because it you need to finish it because it's going to move to the next stage. And if you don't do your part, there's a whole thing, a list of other things that will fail because you do that. So yeah, you might not be inspired and you want um the muse hasn't come visit you, but you have to start working even if you're not inspired, and the muse will come, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
push yourself to do it because you need to be there for your to fulfill your deadline.
Yeah.
You have to show up, and showing up for yourself will just improve your work in general. And it changed the way I approach my creating drawings for tattoos, my creating music, my everything, because I was one of those that will sit down and say, "Oh, I'm not feeling inspired. I'm not feeling inspired. I'm not feeling
Yeah.
inspired." And the dates would pass by, and I would lose clients, and I would, you know, miss rehearsals, and I was very disorganized, and I was very lost in a sense, because the muse wasn't there because it's too much. And now when the when I have these days that I can get up from bed or something, I feel like I don't want to get up. I remember that conversation with Snyder was like, no, you have to get up because you have a customer that's waiting for their drawing. You have to finish that commission for the other customer. There's that cover that Good My Games just yesterday announced that it's that you need to finish. So you have to get up. You have to do it, and
Mm.
it has worked. I get up and I push myself, and I sometimes hate it because I don't feel it. I don't want it. I don't. But pushing
Yeah.
myself for uh, has always helped me, finish my product. And he was right. Halfway through, it's like something clicks, and you're doing this drawing, and you're like halfway through, you're like, no, this would look better this other way, and you erase all that
Mm.
and you
Mm-hmm.
start again
Mm-hmm.
from scratch because something came in. Because the music's not just gonna come in like, hey, hi, I hear you have a deadline. Come here, let me help you. No, you have to get up and show up for yourself even when you're not feeling it, because guess what? Your customer doesn't care. And that sounds
Yeah.
really, really, really rough because there are customers that are understanding. But the truth, the reality is that if you wanna make it big and you want a clientele that's in a bigger scale, you have to be on time. You have to be reliable,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're not reliable, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not reliable, you're not going to get work,
Yeah.
you know?
So
And
there was this great conversation I remember hearing on a podcast, and sadly I don't know who it was, but they were citing some old writer who talked about this exact kind of thing you're talking about. When it comes to the muse, it's they treated it like the way they talked about it was as if you were opening up a shop, and you don't know if any clientele are going to come in or how many, but if you do not open up the shop, they cannot come in.
yep,
And they talked about that in the way of like sitting down at your desk for 8 hours or however many hours and just being there so that the ideas could come to you and not wander around and wonder why nobody came to your shop, and
yep,
just like treating it like a job, but all just with the commitment of a 9 to 5, even though it is this artistic expression of being there waiting for the muse, not expecting the muse to come on your terms of, I sat down with my eggs, where's my muse,
mm-hmm,
but being at the desk ready for the muse to come to you and be open to her visits, but be there even if she doesn't.
yeah, yeah. It's there's this song by Cypress Hill. It's called Rockstar. That there's someone talking before the song starts, and he's saying like, yeah, it's a fun job, but it's still a job.
Yeah.
You still have to show up. That's why I used to have my drawing table and my recording equipment and my podcast stuff all in my living room. For years I had that in my living room. and what was happening was that I was careless about it, you know. I would throw things on top of my drawing table. My computer was always a mess, and things were cables everywhere. Because it was home, and I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Oh, and I would procrastinate it more than I should have, because there's a certain level of there's certain level that you should allow yourself to be like, no, I need to procrastinate today. I'm going to play video games.
Yeah.
But the problem is that having all this at home, I was doing that too much, you know. And I was falling into that, not doing things because it's here. I can do it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So I moved things to an office. Now I have an office. Aside from the tattoo studio, I have an office where I work on the comic book, on the music, on the podcast, on everything else. So that way, when I'm not in the studio tattooing, I'm in the office. Even if I'm here sometimes just cleaning, it's not in the couch at home waiting to see if I get inspired. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm here sweeping the floor and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I have to sit down and record something because an idea came to my head, and I'm here 8 hours on my days off from the studio. And I love it, you know. It's like I said, it's a fun job. It's a fun job. I have had so much fun in my life as an artist. I never believed that I would be able to do the things that I've done, living off of my art. I've been doing it for 16 years now. And it wasn't until I started treating it with the respect that it deserves, and taking it serious, treating it seriously and with respect. When I started to do that, it's when I showed the most noticeable improvement in my work, in how I work with my customers. I managed to organize myself to streamline the communication with customers online. I do consultations online now. I don't have to have my customer come to the studio 3 times before their actual appointment. We do it over online, and this is all the things that started happening when I started to treat my what I do, my career, as a respectable career.
That's so beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Well, while we're talking about your job, do you have a favorite industry secret or term that's only used in your line of work?
Not that. I don't think so. I don't have any. Actually, I don't think there's a term that's only used in any of my my ventures.
Wow.
I don't think there's any. I'm pretty sure there is something exclusive for each of them. I just happen to not know them.
Oh, damn you, brain!
Yeah, because most of my career, I've learned things on my own. And once I discovered that I can do things through YouTube, you know, at this point it's more like refresher, and I still sometimes put something on and they say some words or some art term or something that I've never heard in my whole life. I'm like, oh, well, that's how that's called. Okay.
And going back to calling out what I was 5 seconds ago.
Yep.
All right. Well, as we run up against our first commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Oh my God. So it would be Series by Ghost from the album Meliora. I think that is the song that captures everything that the band is. And if you don't want to listen to Ghost, then I would suggest, I would say, Tear You Apart by a local band from Orlando called Ancient Sun. I saw them live at like 2 weeks ago, and they saved my life. Again, you know, I was going through a really rough patch that week, and I went and I saw this band live that a few days ago I had just discovered and learned that they were from Orlando. Got together with some friends, went to see them, and their live show was so good. Oh my God. I left so energized from that show. and went home, went to bed, and the next day I woke up and I wanted to draw, I wanted to play, I wanted to do a bunch of things. So yeah, give them a listen if you get a chance.
All right, and with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Sirius by Ghost, or, if that's not your speed, Tear You Apart by Ancient Sun. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know.
Don't worry, there's a link in the description.
Either way, see you in a bit. Have you ever just looked at fried carbs on a plate and thought, I need to eat those, but it doesn't taste all that appetizing? Introducing catsup. Catsup is a sugary and red syrupy paste that'll overshadow any unappreciated taste. Simply douse the unpreferred tasting object and ingest. Mmm. Thanks, catsup. Welcome back, everybody. So I'm here with GAMBIT Melendez. GAMBIT, what is your passion that you brought with you today?
My passion is doing comic books and doing tattoos and doing music. Oh my god, I have 3 passions.
Well, we're gonna winnow that down to 2. We're gonna take the time that's a little bit more ink sensitive.
Yes.
When did you first get into drawing, whether it be on skin or on, paper?
Well, the first drawing that I remember that blew everybody's mind when I finished it was a Sad Sam drawing that my sister had a poster in the room, and I decided to draw it one night, and it came out really, really, really cool. I was like in 4th grade at the time, but I would say, I was in 4th grade at the time. I didn't do much with that. I was always led to believe that I was magical and I didn't need to practice and do anything. I was amazing. And in, like I said, I didn't do much of that except a few sketches here and there, designing tattoos for other people. And 16 years ago, I got tired of where I was working, and one of my friends said jokingly, you know what, instead of drawing tattoos for everyone, why don't you do them? And that's
so you were drawing tattoo art before you even started tattooing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, draw a cross for me with my grandmother's name. I draw a cross with her grandmother's name in it. It wasn't that I didn't even know what I was doing. I turns out that I was every design that I did back then for tattoos was horribly done. I did everything that I now avoid to do when I'm designing a tattoo for my customers. But yeah, I had done a few drawings for some people, and one of them said that, and it stuck. And about, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know how long between the time that he said you should do that, instead of just making the designs, you should actually learn how to do it, to the day I decided to buy my equipment. It was maybe a few months. It wasn't that, I didn't give it much thought. I was just sick.
4th grade. So 4th grade, you're doodling around, you're drawing, your sister's poster.
Mm-hmm.
Between then and when you started drawing people's tattoos unknowingly for them, were you going to art class? Did you take any, did you have a sketchbook? Were there any creative juices flowing in that direction, or was it, here and there, not that you really remember?
I always wanted to draw a comic book. That I knew that I've always wanted to do since I was 16 years old, and I had some attempts at doing comic books when I was 16 years old, and now I see them and I get like, wow, I was very ballsy to think that I was gonna be able to pull this off, So there were attempts, were attempts at me drawing and sketching in between calls when I was working at the call center. I had to do it hiding because I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to draw.
Yeah.
So there were some attempts, but I never actually put the time to it. I never took any drawing classes. I started taking it more seriously when I started tattooing, and I started reading some art books, and I started to learn some things, because I realized very, very fast when I started tattooing that if I didn't get better, I was not going to be able to live off of it. I was going to be able to make some money out of it, but I was not going to be able to make that my income. So I needed to definitely get better. It was a little bit difficult at first to accept that I needed to learn more because, like I said, I was always led to believe that I was amazing and that the gods blessed me with something that not many people are blessed with, you know?
Yeah.
And then one day I realized that the gods gave that gift to a lot of people. That I am not that special or magical as I thought I was. So at first it was oh wait, wow, I have to actually So that's when I started to take it a little bit seriously. But I didn't take it seriously until I moved here to the States in 2015. So it wasn't, it took me almost 8 years of tattooing for me to realize that I still needed to learn more, that I still needed to get better. And then when I moved here, I was like, once I left the island and started working at a studio that had more than 5 artists, and all of them were different and all of them were better than me. So the owner of the studio was like, "Well, you tattoo good. You have good tattoos, but it's not anything that any of these people here can do. Why should I hire you?" And I was like, "Oh, because I speak Spanish." And he looked at me and he said, "All right, I'll give you a chance." So that was my way in that I knew Spanish, because they had turned away of a couple Spanish speaking clients because they didn't know how to communicate. So that was my way in. And I realized really fast, like, oh wow, these people are this is top notch. This is another level. I have to get better, and I have to get better fast. So I started to take it more seriously. That was around 2015. That's when I started. If at first I was eating, breathing, and doing everything about drawing and tattoos, now it was anything that I would do was draw. I had to get better. I need to draw this. I need to get better at this. I need to learn how to do digital art, because I won't be able to fly for too long if I keep it traditional. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Let me clarify that. Yeah. But I did realize that doing things digitally cuts the long process of the design, cuts the time by more than half. And sometimes a design will take me 8 to 12 hours to draw. Now I can do the same thing in 2.5 hours.
Whoa.
And granted, it's not just that the digital tools have made it easier for me. I put the hours in to be able to draw faster and draw better and make what I need really fast, so that from the sketch to the stencil drawing to the tattoo, it's going to be only 3 steps. Before, that would take me 4, 5, 6 steps before I actually started tattooing.
Wow. Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have realized that I needed to get better at what I was doing. That meant I need to get better at drawing. Me getting better at drawing immediately improved my tattoo skills. It improved the way my tattoos look, and that, with learning more about my craft and putting time into talking to other experienced artists and asking questions, things that I was afraid to do before, elevated my work and made and you can notice, if you follow my work from before I moved here to when I moved here, at the beginning of me moving here, how it much improved, and then by now you can tell the difference and how fast it was. But it didn't come without putting the hours and treating my craft, like, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, treating my craft with respect, with the respect that it deserves, and not like something that I'm a cool tattoo artist. Look at me, you know, I'm super cool, you know, and which is true, but but I had to treat it with more respect than that, and it took me some years to realize that. So it has been a very adventurous career so far, and I know for sure my mindset is in such a different place to when I started, that what's left of my career until the day I stop doing this, it's going to be equally interesting and equally amazing.
That's so beautiful, man. So, but there's something here that I just want to make sure I understood this correctly. When did you draw your comic, the one that you drew 90 Days Flat? When did you create that?
2015.
Okay, so you created that in and around the same year that you moved to the United States.
Yep, it was,
and you really upped your game.
Yep, it was. I started working on that in January. I finished it by May. In May, I published the first half, and then in June, I published the second half. And in that second half, I did a signing at a local comic book store, and the next day, I hopped on a plane and moved to Florida.
That's awesome.
And
hold on. So you did that? No. Wait. So you made that comic before you came to the U.S.?
Yes, the comic was done before I came to the U.S., yes.
Okay, so you made and published a comic book, came to the U.S., got a job as a tattoo artist, and realized you need to up your game.
Yes,
but did.
I was already tattooing. I'm going to
take a moment, as I really hope you recognize the amount of humility and intelligence in that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So many people that I know and have talked to, they do that, and somebody goes, I don't know, this is, or like they would look at their work and look at other people and somehow see their own as being different or better, but you saw theirs and you saw it for what it was, and you pushed yourself, even though you had done this feat, even though you had sold both pieces out, you still saw the call to action, you still saw the beauty in other people's works, and pushed yourself forward. That is amazing.
Yeah, and now I work with since then I've had 4 apprentices. The first apprentice that I had here, he was already an amazing artist, and he started working at the studio, and I learned so much from him. So every time he calls me every time he introduces me as his mentor, I'm like, oh man, don't say that, because I feel like I learned more from him.
Just say ditto.
Exactly. I learned so much from him. And then I had another apprentice, and she is now a tattoo artist, and she's doing great for herself. And we have 2 apprentices now at the studio, and one of them, it's equally as good an artist and as my first apprentice. And I sit down with her and I teach her some things, and then I ask her certain things, and it's a back and forth. And I'm actively learning from these apprentices that I had that are 10 years, 15 years, 20 years younger than me. And I'm
so
still
awesome.
I'm learning from them as they are learning from me, which has been a completely different experience that I thought I was going to have as a mentor.
Yeah.
Because I've never had a mentor. I never had anyone take me by the hand and say, "Let's do it this way." It has always been, I need to do this. How do I do this? I need to figure it out. And I did. I figured things out as best as I could to the best of my abilities. So I made sure that when someone came knocking at my door asking for help, that I was going to be able to help to the best of my ability. That I was not going to shut the doors on anyone that would come asking for help like it happened to me, because I did try to get help in what I was doing, but I was turned down. So, okay, fine, I'll do it myself. So when Thanos grabs the glove and he said, fine, I'll do it myself, I can relate to that. It's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And I did it myself. I taught myself how to play the guitar. I taught myself how to tattoo. I've everything that I've learned how to do it, I've done it by picking up a book, reading about it, and now, thanks to the magic of the internet, just go on the internet and find a tutorial, and so that's how you do it. And with these apprentices, I've been learning. I always thought that me as a mentor would be like, yeah, I'll just info dump them and have them do everything they can with the information that I give them. but I never thought that I was going to get something and learn something from them at the same time.
Yeah.
And it makes the whole experience a completely new one to me. And I'm enjoying
Yeah.
every second. I've been enjoying it every second of it.
That's so beautiful. So now you're saying in your studio, did you kind of like upgrade your space in the studio that you can work at, or have you since left then and gone to your own place?
No, so the studio that I'm working at decided to move to a bigger space, and because we were going to take 2 new apprentices, and we had the old apprentice that was graduating to tattoo artist, so we needed the space. So that's what we did. We moved the studio to another location, a bigger location, and then I kept the old location as the office for doing everything else that's not tattooing that I can't do at the tattoo studio.
No, but I mean, like, so when you came to Florida, you went to a studio. You were the 5th or the 6th artist there.
Oh,
Did you leave that studio, go create your own studio, move to a different studio?
No.
What was your trajectory from there?
so since I've been here, I worked at the first studio 3 years. It was at the mall. Then we have some difference of opinion with the owners, and we left. When I say we, because I wasn't the only one. Almost the whole crew left at the same time, and we went our separate ways to different studios around in the area. Then we all got together to work at another studio that was opening up in Cocoa Beach.
You got the band back together?
Uh-huh.
All the artists left, and then they all got back together?
And then we all got back together, yeah. And now
That's so awesome.
And since then, we left that place because one of the artists decided to open her own studio, and she said, "I'm leaving. You want to come with me?" And I said, "Let's go." And now she opened her own studio. That's where I've been working for the past 2 years. And it's been an amazing experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, working with so many people, if there's someone that you could work with or tattoo, who would you want it to be?
If I could tattoo someone, I would like to tattoo Jason Momoa.
Oh, hell yeah.
I met him in Puerto Rico in 2015. Cool dude.
Yeah. That's so awesome. It's always great when somebody that's that bigger than life, like,
right? It's cool.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my God, you're actually cool. That's amazing." If I could work with someone, I have a lot of people that I would love to work with. I would like to work with Jimmy Palmiotti. I would like to work with Jim Lee. I would like to work with Joe Quesada. The list is insane, and so it'll be a long list to say. I don't know.
Well, with names like that you'd like to work with, what is your aspirations in this field? What would you like to achieve? What would you like to do in the field of being a tattoo artist?
As a tattoo artist, I want to eventually own my own studio. I just don't want to do it in Florida.
Where would you like to own it?
I don't know yet. That's the problem. I don't know yet.
What's wrong with Florida?
I mean, let's start with
I worded that a certain way for a bunch of fun.
Right now, there's in my area. I can tell you right now, in this avenue where I'm at right now, there are at least 5 different studios in the same road. And there's way too many in this area right now. Last time we counted, we made a list. There was like 15 different studios in 3 different towns, and they're like, maybe the longest drive between one and the other is 10 minutes. So they're not that far away, that far apart. Granted, you would say, yeah, but that's good competition, and some of them are not even competition, to be honest. And this is not me being, it's the reality. But they're still there, and people
Yeah.
will still people will still stop at those places, and people will still get tattooed by them, and some will regret it, some won't. But there's too much around, and sadly, the way the industry is moving right now, it's going to be impossible to go to a place where there's not that many tattoo studios where I can be successful. So it's a matter of finding a place where I'm like, okay, this is going to be my forever home. Even if it's Florida, I know for sure it's not going to be in Brevard County.
Yeah.
I would
So
move
for
somewhere
those of us
bigger.
that are like, I've never been sadly inside a tattoo parlor. Walk me through a day in the life of a tattoo artist.
Oh, so our studio, it's more of a modern style type of studio, I would call it. There's no such thing as that. But I try to. The reason I said that way is because it's different to what we're used to hear about what tattoo studios are, and it's more of what's common now these days of what a studio is. But a day in the life, it's not that different from any other job. You wake up, you eat your breakfast. If you are like me and you have the drawing already set for your customer, you go over the design and make sure that you don't want to make any changes while you're drinking your coffee. And then I get ready, go to the studio. At the studio, there's we have the front counter girl. We have 2 apprentices that already should have everything set up and already everything ready for you to go. If not, prepping the station, wait for your customer, talk to your customer, greet them, make them comfortable. We try to give our customers an experience. It's not just getting tattooed and go. When you go to the studio, we have a room where we have a big couch, we have a big TV, you have snacks, you have coffee, you have water. What do you need? Make yourself comfortable. In the process of you getting comfortable and relaxing, please fill out this form for us and have your ID ready. Now we do that digitally, so they don't even have to do anything outside of their phone. Just fill it on your phone, take a picture of your ID, and while the customer does that and gets ready, it gives me a chance for me to go over the design one more time, print the stencil, show it to the customer. If the customer wants to make any changes to the drawing, that's the moment to do it. We talk about the design, we size it, we make any changes that we're going to make, and then I take them back to the station where they're going to get tattooed. There I make sure that they're comfortable, that they're sitting in a comfortable position for their tattoo. If they need a pillow, I grab a pillow for them. If they're too cold and we have to put a blanket over them, we have that available for them too. We try as best as we can to give the customer the most comfortable experience that they can get. That when they leave, they feel spoiled. And after a few hours of tattooing, we finish the tattoo. We wrap that tattoo. I give the customer the instructions on how to take care of your tattoo, and off you go. See you in a few weeks when you call me back for your next tattoo. We offer the customers a free touch-up if necessary. Very rarely we need to touch up a tattoo. That's why we offer it. We offer anything that would make my customer's life as comfortable as possible, so that the experience, although painful, be one that at the end be like, yeah, I feel great about this. I feel great that I was stabbed by a metal needle with ink for 3.5 hours on my rib cage, and it hurts like hell, but I want to come back.
So how many tattoos are you doing in a day?
Right now, I do 1 tattoo a day, and it's because
Oh, wow.
and it's because I want to, like I said, we want to give our customers a great experience. So we take some time before we start, and we take some time after we're done with the tattoo. It's not we finish the tattoo, off you go. It's we finish the tattoo, and we would talk a little bit more. I will give you the instructions. I will go over with you the instructions, and I will walk you out. And in that process, we will joke and we will make this you leaving like a 20-minute exit. So I only take one, but the average for a while was 2 a day. It's what I was comfortable with. But there were days where I would take 3 or 4. There were days that I did 13 tattoos in a day, and those were hard days.
The understanding I'm getting the way you're talking about this is that this is something, this is an event. This has been planned, that you've talked to them at least once, probably twice, maybe even more than that. You've worked on the picture, you've done it, you've done multiple sketches, multiple full renders.
Yes.
And then it comes to the day of. It's almost like a performance, artistically speaking.
So
that stays on them forever.
Yes.
So do you have people, like, is your studio not allowed to take customers off the street? Like, if somebody walks in and goes, I want a butterfly.
Oh yeah.
Like, can they get tattooed there, or is that like, there's the door?
No. Yeah. Oh yeah. We have artists that are available every day, for walk-ins, and sometimes if I schedule a customer for their session this let's say this Wednesday at 12, and the session we had scheduled a session from 12 to 4, but it was hurting too much, or the customer wasn't feeling right. It was like, you know what, let's call it quits earlier and leaving earlier, or the tattoo just took me less time than I was expecting, and I have more time available during the day. I'll take a walk-in. I'll take someone that's like, yeah, I want to get a name tattooed. Yeah, let's do that. But if you want something that's more involved and something that's on a larger scale, then it means that we have to sit down and we have to talk about what is it that you want, how are we going to do it, in what style do you want it? Because I'm not specialized in one style. I learned to do different styles because I wanted to be able to not say no to any customer that walk in through the door. Because if someone walks in and I said, oh man, I can't do that, that's a customer that's going to leave that studio with a bad impression. So I learned to do everything as best as I could. And there's a shit ton of artists out there that are way better than me at all of those styles. But I can do all of them. So if you walk in through those doors and you said, I want something realistic, I will try to get it as realistic as possible, and you will leave really happy. If you want something neo-traditional, if you want something traditional, all of those things, I learned how to do them. And sorry, I lost the train of thought.
You're all good. Well, let me grab the reins then. What's the biggest misconception about tattoo artistry by the wider world?
Tattoo misconception. There's a lot of them. They start with
what are some of the biggest, most common, or most offensive?
I would say most common is that if you have tattoos, you're some sort of criminal, or some sort of problem, or some sort of menace to society. And one of the reasons. Let me rephrase this. When I started, when I was in Puerto Rico, at some point, I was the president of the Parents Teacher Association in the school when my kid was, because we have a 6th grade graduation, and I was in charge of organizing that with a group of other parents. And some of these parents decided to join the committee just to keep an eye on me, because they thought that because I had tattoos, I was going to steal the money or was going to do something. And I had to have a meeting with all of them one day, and I said, listen, I own my own business and I make more money than most of you. So there's no need. It was a lie at the time. I wasn't making that much money. But they didn't need to know that. Yeah. But I said, I own my own business. I don't need your money. None of you are paying for any of my things. I work really hard for all of them. This is for the kids. And after that, they kind of loosen up. And one of the parents came to me after the graduation and said, I have to apologize. I had a very wrong idea about you, and it's because of the way you look. And I apologize. And I knew that was going to happen. And I'm glad that it happened, because one of the things that I've made sure to do is that everywhere I go, I change people's perception of what a person with tattoos is. I had a radio show when I was in Puerto Rico, and one of the things that we did is that we would collect comic book donations, and we would take them to hospitals and foster homes and give free drawing classes to kids and free comic books to kids to try, to make their lives easier.
Yeah.
And I would make sure that when I was showing up for these events, that my tattoos were visible, that I looked like I always look, that I didn't hide anything of who I was or how I look, to make sure that, one, these kids will live with the impression that just because you have tattoos doesn't mean that you're a bad person or a horrible person, and to shut some people up that immediately sees you and they go like, oh, there comes this guy with tattoos. But after speaking with me a few minutes, they'll be like, oh, you're not what I was expecting. And I'm like, I know. That's on purpose.
And that's why I'm here, baby.
Exactly. But I would say that that's the biggest thing that still is a problem, believe it or not. Although tattooing now it's now seen as a career, because now you get more kids coming out from high school that like, yes, I want to be a tattoo artist, and actively follow it as a career, which is something that when I started tattooing, it was still seen as a last resort type of thing. And to be honest, for me, it was some sort of a last resort. If that didn't work, I didn't know what I was going to do in my life at that point. I know I didn't want to work at a call center anymore. It was unhealthy.
Yeah.
It was unhealthy, like physically unhealthy. I was getting sick. My depression was horrible. It was horrible, and I know that I didn't want to do that anymore. So if tattoos didn't work for me, well, and now we have the chance to see it as a career, as an option for you to get out of from school, and if you want to go in college and do some art and then follow the tattoo career, you can do that. And a lot of artists are doing that. They go from school to art school, they spend some years in art school, they get their art diploma, and then go straight to a tattoo studio and talk to an artist that will take them as an apprentice. And that's something that, like I said, 16 years ago it wasn't that easy. And still today, although it's easier and we got all these bunch of amazing people out there fully covered in tattoos, there's still people that sees us like we are the scum of the world,
Yeah. So I absolutely know what you mean. For the record, my last job, I was having similar things, like driving to work. I was having a panic attack every day. Every time I went home, I felt like I was free from the jail cell, but only for, like half a day. Like the warden let me out to go have lunch with my family, but I knew that I had to go back there the next day, kind of thing. So absolutely know how you feel. Glad that you and I are both free from those cages.
Oh my God, yes.
So in movies and TV, they will frequently show tattooing. It's usually not, sadly, center stage as much as for a gorgeous art form as it should be. But in such venues, do they ever show it correctly or incorrectly? Or are there some like versions that you see that you go, yes, good job, or Jesus Christ, what were you guys thinking?
I think I've never seen a movie where they accurately portray getting a tattoo.
What are some of the things that they show most inaccurately?
Sorry. I think the first time that I got irritated at a movie showing the procedure wrong was with The Expendables. When Stallone gets to the garage and Mickey Rourke just grabs the machine and starts tattooing him without gloves. But how long has that machine been there set up that the ink was already, everything was ready, and you just grab it and started tattooing this dude without cleaning the area, without sterilizing anything, in a garage, where their bike is. It's like, what is wrong with you? That was the first time that I got irritated. After that, every time that they show a tattoo scene, I just try to disconnect myself and try to see it like, this is just an artistic interpretation of what tattooing is. Don't get upset.
So, for those, I mean, there's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, again, haven't been in a tattoo parlor, haven't been in a shop. What goes into the prep? You said like he walked in and immediately starts tattooing him. That obviously, the way you're saying it, yeah, that makes sense why that would be messed up. But what goes into, if I walk into a shop, let's say we both walk in, I'm there at open, and you're walking in. What's going to happen before I sit in the chair and you start inking me up?
Usually I set up my customers like half an hour after we open, so that way when you get there, we're not frantically running around opening the shop and running around you cleaning last minute to make everything presentable. So when you walk there, everything is set up. The setup that goes into your tattoo, after we agree on the design and we're gonna do it, I take you back. I will shave the area that we're going to tattoo. We're gonna sterilize that area we clean it with alcohol or whatever cleaning solutions that we're using at the moment. I personally prefer to use either the green soap or alcohol. I clean the area really nice, sterilize it. We put the stencil on. Once the stencil is there, we leave that stencil a few minutes to dry. And while that is happening, I wrap the last parts of the station. I like to leave the wrapping of the machine and opening the needles until the customer is sitting next to me, so that they see me doing it in front of them, so that they see the process, and try to be as transparent in front of the customer as possible. When I started tattooing, I heard a lot of stories of of artists that would do things like purposely hiding it from their customers, although they were not doing anything weird, but making the customer feel uncomfortable because they can't see what is happening. So I try to if it's your first tattoo, I will explain the whole process. Okay, while this dries, I am going to cover the machine. I'm wrapping it right now, and this is what we're doing with it, and this is how it works. And I put it aside, and these are your needles. This is the size that we're going to use. We're going to use this size for these lines. We're going to use this size for the shading and the coloring, and this size is going to be for the other shading that we're going to do in a larger area or whatever it is that we're going to do with design. And I explain all that to the customer, and I try to guide them through the whole process and make sure that they are comfortable. So there's a whole process. Even if you don't do all that, you have to sterilize the area. You have to sterilize the skin and clean it and make sure that when you start working on that skin, it's clean, that there's no risk of contamination. And you open your needles right before you're going to start tattooing. You don't open them and leave them there open while your customer is filling out the paperwork or you're explaining things to them. You open them right when you're about to start. Again, minimizing the risk of any contamination happening in the process. If it's a customer that already has a tattoo and they're coming in for their second session, it's a faster process because they don't have to go through the process of me putting the stencil and approving the design. It's already there. It's just starting to shade. So you walk in, you fill out the paperwork, you sit down. I clean the area for you. I clean the skin with alcohol or green soap. And before we start tattooing, the whole process, I prep everything in front of you just so that you see me prepping it. And then we start tattooing. I don't start tattooing until we are 100% sure that we are ready to start tattooing. That means that you went to the bathroom, you had your snacks before we got in, or whatever medication you need to take. It's like
leaving on a road trip. You've used the bathroom, you've got your snacks.
Because you're gonna be sitting there for a few hours. You're gonna be sitting there for a few hours. You can be, depending on the tattoo and depending on the session. I've had customers that are sitting in the table for half an hour, and I have customers that are sitting on my table for more than 8. So if you're gonna be sitting down for 8 hours, come comfy. I suggest, I give my customers, before we set up an appointment, I send them a list of rules and guidelines. And it's a list of things that I recommend they do before their tattoo appointment, during the tattoo appointment, and after the tattoo appointment. That means rest the night before, drink plenty of water, no partying the night before, because it's going to be rough. It's going to be really rough the next day trying to get a tattoo with a hangover. It's your body doesn't want it, and you not being comfortable is going to make my work harder. It's gonna make me work harder in order to give you the quality of tattoo the work that I produce. You have to be comfortable. That's a big factor. If you're not comfortable, you're gonna irritate me. You irritate me. I want to get you out of the table, and I will do this half-assed, or you start moving too much and you won't be able to take it, and you quit halfway through the session, and you're not happy. I'm not happy. So I give them these rules so that they take care of themselves, and they're in the studio. You're gonna be there sitting 8 hours, come in comfy clothing, like some sweatpants, flip-flops. Bring a blankie if you have a blankie. If you have your favorite pillow, bring it. Bring something to read, an audiobook or a book, or your iPad with some movie if you want to do that. But you have to be, comfortable. Otherwise, this is going to be a problem.
So in regards to what you said earlier, you said you didn't really know what to avoid doing when tattooing. What are some of the things that early on you learned that you would now want to avoid, and when talking to your, up and coming tattoo artists, the ones that you're putting under your wing, that you let them know, hey, don't make this mistake that I did?
Oh, there's plenty. One of the things that I tell them is, the first rule is, you treat this with respect. That line, this is a fun job, but it's still a job. This is your career. You're going to live and breathe this, or otherwise it's not going to work. You will only get better by doing it, by putting the hours. So I know it's tempting, because you're going to meet a bunch of people, and you're going to get invited to a bunch of parties, and you're going to get drinks for free, and a bunch of things are going to come your way that you were not expecting, or you did not think was going to ever happen. Don't fall for it. That's the first thing. Don't fall for it. It will distract you. Try not to distract you. Plenty of rest. Show up for yourself during your apprenticeship and during the process. In terms of working, and what do I tell them to avoid? There's no need to have a full rendered stencil. It's pretty cool if you're going to do a photorealistic one, and now there are printers that will print that picture in the stencil, so you don't have to redraw a portrait. You just take the picture and print the stencil of the picture. But if you're doing art, creating designs, not doing photorealistic stuff, you're drawing things for your customer, you don't have to make a stencil that it's so detailed that when you put it on, it's really hard to read. You can make a stencil really clean, really clean, really open, and go to town. Look at the reference picture. If you have a good reference picture, if you did a full render drawing, or a very a well planned out tattoo, even if it's just a sketch, if it's planned properly, with that sketch you can make a nice stencil, a nice clean stencil, and start tattooing without the need of having this thing that when you put it on and you peel the paper off, and the stencil is all purple and you can't see any of the details. And since you know the drawing, you can work with it little by little, but it's gonna be very time consuming. So learn to do a stencil very clean, or as clean as possible, and it'll save you time, it'll save you headaches, it'll save you a bunch of stuff. The other thing that I tell them is, dilute the green soap with water. I did not know that you had to do that. So my first 10 customers, I wiped those tattoos with pure green soap. That shit burns. That shit burns a lot. So things like that, it's what I would tell them. Now I focus more on design aspects, on making sure that when they design something, that it looks that it looks pleasing to the eye, and make sure that they get their values correct, even if it's a full color. I try to give them the lessons that I wish I would have been taught. So
That's lovely.
it's a lot. There's a lot. I learned a bunch of stuff through trial and error. Do not use a needle too big for a name. But if you're doing some lettering, try to use the smallest needle that you can use. But be careful with the smallest needles, because those show all of the imperfections of your shakiness of your hands, because everybody shakes, you know. It's really difficult to pull a straight line no matter what you do. So imagine having a machine that weighs a couple ounces in your hand with a cable in the back pulling it, that's vibrating, and you have to keep it steady to try to pull a line. It's very stressful.
That sounds like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you use a needle that's really thin for something, you have to have so much control over that machine. So because any shaky, anything is gonna show in that tiny needle. So you have find that balance of what needles do I use with the size of the project that I'm gonna work, which is something that I learned the hard way. I've seen some of those first tattoos that I do now, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I knew the things that I know now, because that wouldn't look like that. And at the same time, I have some tattoos from that era that I was like, how did I did that? Because it still looks good. I have a friend that sent me a tattoo I did of a Frank Frazetta painting once, and it still looks good. And I remember where my skills were at the time, my tools were, and how limited I was. And I was surprised that still 10 years later, it still looks good. It's like, I was like, how did I do that with just that one needle and just those 6 colors that I had? And it sometimes baffled me that I managed to produce some really good quality work during those times. There was a lot of not so good quality work at that time either. You know, I can't pretend that that's not the reality, because, like I said, there was a lot of trial and error. And it sounds really, really, really fucked up that I'm saying, I'm sorry if I couldn't curse. I say that considering that I'm doing a permanent tattoo on someone, I'm like, trial and error. Oopsie.
So, speaking of, you said your first tattoo, it's one that's going to probably stick with you forever. You did have a friend who helped walk you through the act of tattooing. And then your second one is one that still is great to this day. Other than those two, what would you say is your favorite tattoo that you've ever given?
Oh my God, that's a really tough question to answer. And the reason is because I've improved so much since then. And every time I improve, I see it. I recognize the day that it happens, because it kind of happens like that. One day a tattoo come out, you go like, whoa, wow, I did that. I'm like, oh my God, I did this. Yeah, and then it gets to a place where you're like, get bored. You see the same thing. You don't see any growth. And then one day you do something that really gets to you, and you put a little bit of extra attention to something. I can never tell. It's just one day. And usually those are my favorite. Those and the first 10 tattoos after that, they're like, yes, because they mark that moment where you see that huge leap in skill and knowledge, and it shows. And so there's a lot of those. There's a lot. But I would say that my favorites are anything that I've ever done that's comic book related, which is why I started tattooing. When I started tattooing, I did it because I couldn't do comic books at the time, and I wanted to tattoo comic book characters. Yeah, I was really down there at that time. There was not many people doing it, and I knew I loved the medium. I love comic books. I know that if I do tattoos of comic books, I can make a living out of it, and I am making a living out of it. That's why most of my customers look for me for the comic book stuff that I've done. I haven't done a really cool comic book stuff in, let me see, like 6 months. I did that's a movie. That was Beetlejuice. That was not comic book. But yeah, I did a Venom one. It was a recreation of Eric Larsen's cover. That's Venom holding the skull of Spider-Man. And
awesome.
there's a newer version of that cover by another artist. So that was what the customer brought in. He said, I want this version of this cover. So that's one of my favorite. I did a whole full sleeve of Spider-Man scenes. 2, actually. I've done 2 full sleeves of Spider-Man characters. Those 2 are my favorites. And they're very different from each other, too. And you can see the growth in one. There's like 2 years apart, one from each other. And when you put them together, you can tell that there's been some growth in how I design, how I tattoo, how I apply the color. It's a really, really cool journey. It's been a really cool journey, and I'm very, very happy. Wow.
All right, my friend. To move from the radical to the ridiculous, what is your preposterous peeve?
Sorry, I was taking a sip of my water. I would say, then, so I hide it really well when it's in person. So you can tell that I'm really irritated by those words. But if I'm home and I get the message and it's that dreaded message, hey, I want to get a tattoo. Cool, perfect. What do you want? I don't know. It's like, do you have any tattoos? Yes. But I want, those are black and gray, and I want something that's very colorful. Okay. Do you want flowers? No, I don't want flowers. I don't want flowers. Okay, so no flowers. Do you like animals? No animals. Okay. Do you like skulls? No, skulls are too horrible. Then I don't know what I'm going to do with you, you know? It's like, what do you want?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So if it's a customer in person, I think that's why I don't do many consultations in person anymore. If it's a customer in person, I try not to show it because I don't want my customer to feel uncomfortable. So I have this nice poker face. No problem. We can figure that out. And I ask them a series of questions. But that's time that I could spend actually creating the design for you. If you come in with if you say, hey, I want a skull and I want that skull to have a crown and I want behind the skull to have like splatters of colors like it's blood, but instead of blood, I want it to be in different colors. So now you're giving me something and I can create with that. And that's it. It was like 3 sentences, and just let me do my thing with that description. Or you can say, I want a skull, I want a skull, I want a crown, and I want these colors, and I'm sending these pictures as reference so that you see the style of how I want it. Oh, that's even better because it's a more targeted guide. It's like, okay, so you want these elements and you want it to look like that. Perfect. But if you come at me with, I don't know what I want, I just know that I want color, that's cool and that's great, but there's not much I can do with that. Because chances
Here, a blank
are
canvas, do something. Oh, except not these things.
That if you say create whatever you want, I've had people that say, oh, so I have this space here, do whatever you want. So whatever I want, yeah, whatever you want. Like whatever, yeah, whatever you want. And I go to town and they're like, yeah, that's right. And they leave super happy. And that's amazing because I can do whatever I want. And sometimes I do want some direction. Sometimes there's customers that are really picky and I prefer that you tell me exactly what you want before I sit down and spend 3 hours making a drawing for you. And then you'll be like, but I don't like that flower. Well, you should have said something. Should have said something before we started. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you don't have a tattoo and you want to approach a tattoo artist about your first tattoo or your next tattoo, please have at least a general idea of what you want. They will appreciate it. Some artists will be like, yeah, no problem, and they will take the time and they will be patient with you. But some artists will be just complete dicks about it and be really there's a lot of ego in the industry. In any industry there's always you know the
Especially one that's
people.
so artistically driven.
Yeah.
I would have to imagine there's a big part of that.
Yeah.
Did this predilection of yours ever kind of get you in any trouble or make life absurdly difficult?
No, not really. Trouble? No. Difficult? Maybe. But no, not really.
Mm. Something I kind of forgot to ask in the earlier one that I'm curious before we get too far away from it. Do you have any horror stories or any nightmare scenarios when tattooing that you can share?
Yes. let me go over it in my head to make sure that I can tell that story. Yes. I ruined that tattoo once. those nautical stars that are each leg has two colors. It's usually black and red or black and blue, black and green. It's this 5-point star, and each point has two colors. Anyway, it goes color black, color black, color black, color black, right? It goes around the whole star.
Yeah.
One day I colored the two sides. I put colors in two sides that were touching each other, and I ruined the scheme. It was color black, color black, color. Oh, what? and by the time I noticed, it was too late. And actually, it wasn't me who noticed. It was the customer who noticed. Which is worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be the worst one. And he was like, "Hey man, it's fine, no problem." I didn't charge him for the tattoo. Tattoo. I was like, "Dude, this is on me." He gave me a nice tip, anyways, because he was really gracious. He still liked the tattoo. But I couldn't. The other story
looking
was
in the mirror was tough.
yeah. The other story was this customer that she wanted to get a cover up of a name on her back, and we talked. And this is the first time I kind of suspected that she was going to be a difficult customer. So this is the first time, and after her, I applied this to the rest of my customers. It was a really learning experience. The first time that I talked to this lady, and I went with extreme detail of what I was going to do with her tattoo in order to make that cover up, because what she wanted was a sunflower to cover up a name, and that was very difficult to achieve at that point, and I knew where my skill level was at. So I explained to her what I could do to it to cover it and how I was going to approach it. And she was fine with it. She was very happy with the drawing. We put the stencil on. She saw how the stencil looked, the areas that was going to cover real easy and the areas that didn't. I did everything exactly. I never steer off the path. I did exactly what I told her I was going to do, which was very rare. And it's still a very rare thing to do, because when I'm tattooing, I usually go with how it's feeling at the moment. And I make changes on the fly sometimes. Not big changes, because I don't want the customer to feel like I changed the design last minute or something like that without their approval. But it would be like something in the shading or something like that. But I didn't do that with her. I did it exactly like I did. She stands up, looks at it in the mirror, goes back and sits down in front of me and doesn't say anything. And I'm like, did you like it or not? I thought that she was just so happy that it was covered that she had no words, and she was like, "No, I don't like it." She tells me I don't like it, and her husband goes like, "But it's exactly what he told you he was going to do." He said, "I don't like it, and she stood up and walked away, and just left.
So what do you do differently in that circumstance now?
So now after that, I give my customers all the details of what I'm going to do. I now that like I said, I realized that I needed to do that, because even when I do that, it can potentially go wrong. So if I do that, at least I cover my bases and make sure that at the end, if they say I don't like it, well, I don't know why you don't like it, because it's exactly what I told you were gonna get. you know. Luckily, that hasn't happened ever again.
Yay!
But it was really really rough that one time when it happened. It was the first time that someone said, "I don't like your tattoo."
Oof. All right, with that tough pill to swallow, we're gonna head to our second ad break, but don't go anywhere because when we get back, Gambit is gonna enter the lightning round.
Woo.
Have you ever wanted to kill a small woodland creature or break a window but not had the physical strength? I know I have. Now introducing Rock. Rock comes in a variation of sizes and ready to use. Simply put Rock in your hand, raise it back to ear level, and release. See? You've got it! This ad does not condone the violence against small woodland creatures or windows, nor will it be held liable for any inability of use when coming into contact with paper.
And we're back. Gambit, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round?
Let's go.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Gambit, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Do the dishes.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Yes.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Oh, usually it's followed by another string of few cool things.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Wow. How am I supposed to answer that in 7 seconds? Both.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Depends on the mood. If I'm at work, I have a playlist. If it's a studio, I have a playlist. But every once in a while, like this week, I've been listening to the latest album by Graveyard. Oh, beautiful album. So yeah, it depends.
Cheese fries, an abomination or gift from God?
Cheese fries. I would say that it's a gift from God. I mean, it's food. Anything that's food is a gift from the gods. I'm forever hungry.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
No. And yes.
Have you ever had Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
No, but I have my first crush on a fictional character ever with What We Do in the Shadows with Nadja. For some reason, it's not the actress because I've looked her up in other stuff, and it's like, nah, it's that character specifically that gives me butterflies.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
I am doing my best not to lose the touch.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
Ouch. That's a really difficult one to answer. I would say I feel like you can't have one without the other. They're
Would
kind
you
of
rather have
attached.
tentacle arms?
Ooh. I've seen enough hentai
you
where this
rather
is
have-
going.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Tentacle arms. Definitely tentacle
Human
arms.
in a world of Muppets or a Muppet in a world of humans?
Oh, wow. Oh. I don't know. Depends on, it will depend on the rules of this world. I think a Muppet because I could get away with a bunch more stuff being a Muppet.
Would you rather meet an alien or a ghost?
An alien.
Are hot dogs tacos?
Oh, wow. That is bold. I will not answer that question. No, that was gonna get me in trouble.
Would you go to a musical festival on the moon?
Yes, definitely.
Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Both.
Would you rather be stranded in the desert or at sea?
How about no? Neither. But if I have no option, I would say, wow, the desert. I would say no. I no. You broke me.
Subbed or dubbed?
Switch.
$100 million. You get it today. However, you die in 30 days. Do you take the 100 million?
Oh, wow. No.
Do you think Jesus had a temper?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If you could see a highlight reel at the end of your life of all the times you almost died, would you?
Of all the time I almost died. I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
I know I don't want to watch that, but to be fair, I would like to see if I actually almost died in more occasions that I could actually tell. It's like, oh shit, I almost died that day. Wow.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
No.
Well, either way, congratulations! You've survived the lightning round! Woo! Now, before we move on, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you couldn't eat 37 of in a 1 hour time limit for $5,000?
What is my favorite food that I could eat or not
Couldn't eat.
Oh, couldn't eat? Oh, my favorite food, I would say it has to be white rice, red beans, and either pork chops or chicken or some kind of meat with my rice and beans. It's a very Puerto Rican meal.
Yeah, that'd be a hard one to get 37 of down for sure.
Yeah. That
But
plate is
either
really
way-
heavy.
But either way, you have conquered the lightning round, and now may ask me and future guests one question. What you got, Gambit?
Do you like reading in the bathroom?
Yes. Reading in the bathroom
Sweet.
it's so much fun. It's so, like, I understand the people that are going to have predilections toward it, because it is a little on the, like, gross side. Like, I see that. I respect that. But also, I don't know, it's me time. It's great.
Yes, it's
You're
quiet.
having a moment of your own with, like, a book. It's awesome.
Yep, that's
I
what
don't
I
even
read.
have kids. I can't imagine how it is with kids. With kids, it's gotta be a must. That's gotta be the best.
That's the only time that you get quiet for yourself. And very rarely it's actually a quiet time because you will get someone knocking on the door. Like that. But yeah, that's where I get my most reading done. I love reading in the bathroom. It's fun. It's quiet. Nobody bothers me.
All right, man, as we come to a close here, anything you want to plug, shout-outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
Sweet. Yes, you can find me on gambitsinc.com, or you can same thing on Instagram, Gambits Inc., and Facebook is the same thing, Gambits Inc. everywhere. Remember that, Gambits Inc. I'm gonna say that many times. But yeah, you go check it out. If you check my website, it's right now going through some upgrades and some stuff, so it might be a little wonky at the time, but if you follow my Instagram account, you can see I post a bunch of stuff there. I post art, tattoos, pictures of my face, and music, and my games and everything. So if you wanna catch up and see what I've been doing or what I'm going to do, that's where you will find it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man.
And thank you.
Well, thank you, Gambit, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And you. Yes, you listening at home, or where you found time to appreciate this. Time is really the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry, we put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeve Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And do remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.